Well, it's Monday morning here in Cancun in beautiful Mexico, and we have another round of the Six Nations competition coming up next weekend. And I thought I'd make a video today about my first thoughts about what I think is going to happen next weekend, and when the teams are announced later in the week, I'll give you all a very detailed preview of each of those games. But for now, it's about just sharing my first thoughts of what's happened so far in this year's Six Nations competition for each of the teams, and what can we probably expect next weekend. So let's get into it. G'day and welcome to Inside Rugby. My name is Mark. I'm a Kiwi rugby fan living here in beautiful Cancun in Mexico. If you're a regular viewer to my show, welcome back. It's great to have you here as always. And if you're here for the first time and you get to enjoy my content, why not hit the subscribe button, stick around and be part of the Inside Rugby global community that we're building here on this channel. Lots of fantastic people making great comments on all the videos, and I encourage you to do so as well. Leave your thoughts about what you think is going to happen next weekend in the Six Nations competition in round 4, and that's what I'm going to be talking about right now. So before we do anything else today, let's have a look at the rankings so far in this year's competition after 3 rounds of the Six Nations. And in number 1 spot we have Ireland, of course, 3 wins from 3 games, and at this stage looking as though they're unbeatable. Then we have Scotland, England, France, Wales and Italy, and that's the rankings as we head into this weekend's game. Now this round kicks off this weekend on Saturday in Rome at the Stadio Olimpico, and it's going to be a match between Italy and Scotland, who are visiting Italy this weekend. Okay, so taking a look at the host Italy in this game, and of course they had that dramatic final minute against France in their last game out. Garbisi hitting the post with that penalty attempt, and of course a lot of talk about whether or not it should have been retaken, and Italy being given another opportunity. It's 13 points all. That's how the game ended, and I must say I was impressed with Italy's defence in that game, particularly after what happened against Ireland, where they were humbled in Dublin. But they rebounded against this French team, and what I've got to say about this French team is I think they're playing terrible rugby at the moment. They've got a good group of players, they're not just playing very well at all, and I think Italy really showed how vulnerable this French team is at the moment. A huge turnaround since the Rugby World Cup. A lot of people are saying it's the DuPont factor. That's probably got a lot to do with it, but I think there's other things going on within this French team at the moment, and they're simply just not playing very good rugby. So Italy will be buoyed by that game against France last time out, and they'll bring a lot of momentum, I think, and belief into this game against Scotland. That's going to be played in Rome on Saturday. Now, a couple of things that have to happen for this Italian team straight up for me is that Garbisi needs to have a good game, and as you've probably heard from watching my previous videos, I'm not a huge fan of Garbisi. I think he's a weak link in at number 10 for Italy, and it's all going to depend on how he plays in this game, whether or not they're going to have any kind of chance against Scotland at all. The other thing that Italy need to improve is their discipline. They're giving away too many penalties, and that man Ruza, the lock, that I pointed out also in my previous videos, he needs to step up if he's going to be playing this weekend and have a much better game when it comes to discipline, because he's giving away silly penalties from Italy and it's causing the opposition to get some points on the board. So there are a couple of things that I think Italy need to look at for this weekend. I think Gonzalo Quesada is doing a good job with his Italian team, and like a number of teams in this year's Six Nations, the Six Nations competition is being used to develop their teams more, and just to check out some of the new players that are coming into these respective squads as well. I think Quesada is going to have to take all of the Six Nations competition to put his footprint on what this Italian team can do moving into the future. They've looked promising at times. They've shown that their defence can be quite good, but their attack is lacking a little bit, and we saw that against Ireland's defence. They weren't able to penetrate that defence of Ireland, so they're going to have to improve that this weekend if they're going to have any chance at all against this Scottish team. Now, Scotland are pretty depleted this weekend when it comes to forwards, and they've lost 3 locks. Ritchie, Gray and Henderson are not going to be available through injury, and Malcolm Sykes has been called up to the squad after not playing for the Scottish team for 2 years, so that's going to be interesting to see whether he gets picked for this game on Saturday. Now Scotland are going to be quite energetic, I think, and motivated after their win over England last weekend to win the Calcutta Cup game, and I think it's going to be interesting to see what team turns up and how they actually play. We haven't seen Finn Russell have a bad game yet in the Six Nations tournament, and my thoughts are if he has a bad game, then the Scottish team might really struggle in Rome. If Italy, I mean, get a little bit of self-belief in the beginning of this game, and they go into half-time quite close to Scotland on the scoreboard. Scotland will be trying to do what they've done in their previous games, and that is to get points on the board early. And we've seen that from Scotland. It's paid dividends to them, particularly in that game against Wales, which they nearly lost in the first round, but they had sufficient points on the board to be able to hold that one out. So I would expect Scotland to try and come out and put quite a few points on Italy in the first 40 minutes of this game in the weekend. Got a few worries when it comes to injuries. Of course, Darcy's out and has been since the beginning of this year's Six Nations competition. He's been ruled out for the rest of the competition as well, so that means he's missed 2 consecutive years of Six Nations rugby, Darcy Graham, so that's a little bit unfortunate for him. Then we've got Tupolotu, who's been ruled out now for the rest of the remaining Six Nations, so that's going to put a big hole in the back line for Scotland, and I would expect Redpath be given the opportunity to replace Tupolotu to partner Hugh Jones there in the centres. Despite the way Scotland's been playing, it's a bit of a tough one to pick. I am picking Scotland to win this one early on in the week here by 15 points. But if Italy do get some heart into this game and they see an opportunity and they play like they did against the French in the second half, who knows, they might push Scotland close to the line. But I expect Finn Russell to lead the Scottish team successfully around the field, and expect to see some more fireworks from Duhan van der Merwe on the wing. He's playing exceptionally in this year's Six Nations tournament. So the first game this weekend, I'm giving it to Scotland early in the week here by 15 points. We'll see how I feel as the week goes on and the teams get announced to take the field on Saturday. England have won 2, lost 1. They lost that game against Scotland last time out at Murrayfield, and they'll be wanting to bounce back from that loss, and Steve Borthwick and his team will be wanting to show what they can do in front of their home crowd at Twickenham. And we've seen Ireland win the last 4 test matches against England, and I think it would be fair to say that Ireland come to Twickenham not having that fear of playing England at their home ground anymore. So expect Ireland to go very, very well in this game. But a big news out this week so far is that Marcus Smith has joined the squad for training this week. He's coming back from that calf injury, and he should be available for selection if Steve Borthwick decides to go down that path for this weekend's game. That's going to be a really pivotal and interesting selection. Of course, we've seen George Ford and a little bit of Finn Smith so far in that number 10 shirt for England. Are we going to see Marcus Smith back? Let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think Borthwick's going to put it on the line by putting Marcus Smith in the 10 jersey this weekend? Now, I've said it time and time again when I've made videos about England's games, and I still think, and I'm still going to say, that I don't think this England team is living up to their potential. They've got a lot of good players and they've got a lot of selection issues as well. I don't think Steve Borthwick's getting that right. Now, I'm going to say this early on in the week, I don't think Steve Borthwick is the right coach to lead this England team to major global rugby success. Okay, he's got a bronze medal at the Rugby World Cup last year, but this England team should be competing for finals of Rugby World Cups and the bigger competitions and beating the bigger teams in World Rugby, but they're not doing that. And I think a lot of that has to do with the way that they're coached and they're managed. And I would like to see somebody else in that role taking over from Steve Borthwick, and I think this England team can then move on. They want to play an expansive game of rugby. They've got a set of players to be able to do that, but I think because it's just not in Steve Borthwick's DNA, he's not able to bring that to fruition for this England team. I know that that's my opinion. I'd like to hear your opinion, but I don't see progress, and that's the most important thing when we're looking at coaches' progress within their coaching careers, and I just don't see that happening with Steve Borthwick against the best teams. That game against Scotland, they should have won that game on a couple of different fronts, but I don't think they had the right team on the field in the beginning of the game. I think the team that finished that game against Scotland should have been the starting 15, and I think we would have seen perhaps a different outcome, and all easy to say with a bit of hindsight, but that's my feelings around this England team. I think they're going to give themselves a better account of themselves this weekend against Ireland, but I don't think it's going to be enough to beat this Irish team at Twickenham. I think Ireland are going to come here very pumped up. They're on a roll at the moment. They've got a lot of self-belief, but they've also got a lot of focus, and I'm sure that Andy Farrell is not going to let this team slip off the mantelpiece that they're on at the moment when it comes to complacency, and that's the only thing that I see beating Ireland this weekend, and I don't think it's going to happen at Twickenham. So expect another tight tussle in the early stages of this game. I think there's going to be a little bit of kicking from England to try and put this Irish team back into their own territory. I don't think that's going to work though, because I think this Irish team is good enough to be able to return the ball and score points once they get down into the English red zone, and I think we're going to see that quite a bit this weekend. Now, a number of ex-players have been agreeing with me when it comes to talking about this English team, and they've got the set of players there to play to a certain level, but they're not playing to their strengths at the moment. And the ex-Irish international Jamie Hislop agrees with me on this one, as he wrote in a recent column. And I think that's what this England team's all about at the moment. They just don't have the right direction from the coaching staff to be able to go on and do their thing. So I'm picking Ireland to win this one by at least 12 points on Saturday. I think it's going to be a close tussle in the first 10 or 15 minutes, but I think we're going to see Ireland do their thing for the remainder of the game, and over the course of 80 minutes we're going to see them too strong and too creative for this English team. I think also the Irish defence is going to be another thing that really helps them in this game. So if England do try and spread the ball, they're going to be caught very quickly by this Irish defence. So expect a bit more kicking from England in this game. I think they're going to use that as a strategic intent to try and get behind this Irish defence, and I don't think it's going to work out very well for them. So that's my pick so far at the beginning of this week. I'm going to say Ireland's going to win this one by at least 12 points in the weekend at Twickenham. Now, just on this Irish team for a minute, as we all know, they've been playing fantastic rugby so far in the Six Nations competition. Their forwards are going very well. Expect another big performance from Van der Fleer-O'Mani and Caelan Doris. Be good to see whether we get Hugo Keenan back again for this weekend as well. Whilst Frawley was good, I think we missed Keenan there with his dynamic play that he brings in from fullback. And expect James Lowe and Nash to have good games again on the wing. I think they've been both playing very well so far in this year's competition. So as I said, I don't see England troubling Ireland this weekend. It's going to be a comfortable Irish win, and I'm picking them so far at the beginning of this week by at least 12 points. Now, the last encounter this weekend is on Sunday, and it's going to be the game played at the Principality Stadium in Cardiff, and it's going to be between Wales and France, and I'm really looking forward to this game. I think this is going to tell us a lot about where these two teams are at the moment. Of course, Wales had that humbling in their last game by that Irish team, and I think Wales played quite well in that game in different patches of the game. There's a lot of talk about it could have been different if they got back to 17 points to 14. They didn't do that, and I think this young, inexperienced Welsh team probably would have learned a lot from that game against a very, very good Irish team at the moment. France, as I say, have been terrible so far, according to me, in this tournament. They were thrashed by Ireland in that first game. They were lucky to get a game against Scotland in that second game, and against Italy they were actually lucky not to lose that game in the last minute, of course. So they come to Wales, and they're going to be looking for a much improved performance from this French team. As I keep saying, they've got the talent in the team. They're probably a little bit like England at the moment. They're not being coached well. They're not being given the opportunities to explore their strengths, and as a result of that, they're coming up empty-handed. We need to see BRE in this team. The 20-year-old is a fantastic rugby player, and if he's not injured, then Fabien Gaultier needs to put him in the starting 15 as far as I'm concerned. He's a game changer. He's a game winner for France, and he needs to start this particular game. It's going to be interesting to see what they do without Dante in the team this week. Of course, he's been given a red card. He won't be playing in the rest of the Six Nations, and it'll be good to see who they put in as a replacement for Dante in that inside centre position. But it's the French forwards that are going to need to go well against Wales to set the platform for their backs, and we haven't seen the French forwards really dominating as yet. They did play well against Italy in the first half, and we saw great performances from Tuilagi and also from Antonio, so expect that front row to be very, very tough if those guys are playing to start off with this coming Sunday. So yeah, I've been really disappointed by this French team so far, like a lot of people have throughout this competition. A lot of people are saying it's all about Anton Dupont not being there, but we can't put it all down to that. These players need to step up and show us what they've got. As I've said in my previous videos, I haven't been happy with the likes of Luku and Jalabert at 9 and 10 for this French team. They need to have big games if they're selected, and we might see a couple of surprises from Fabien Gaultier in terms of their lineup against Wales. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he tries something new in those two positions. Thomas Ramos has been the pick of the back so far for me for the French team. He's been consistent again with scoring points, but also injecting himself into this French backline, and I'd like to see more of that against this Welsh team in the weekend. So this is going to be a really interesting game for me. Is the home crowd at the Principality Stadium going to be able to get this Welsh team over the line? Is this young, inexperienced team going to be able to do it? Are we going to see Sam Costello back in there at number 10 again for Wales this weekend? And we're going to see Thomas Williams in there at halfback to give them a bit of energy and dynamism around the breakdown and the halfback role. It's going to be interesting to see with what Warren Gatland goes with this coming Sunday. So it's going to be a very interesting battle between Wales and France, particularly in the forwards. I think it's going to be interesting to see how Jenkins and Baird go for Wales, and are we going to see Wainwright playing a good game? He's been on and off in a couple of these games. When he's been on, he's been very good, and when he's been off, he's disappeared a little bit. So Warren Gatland will be wanting to see a big game from Wainwright. The French forwards need to turn up to this game, because if they're going to have any chance with ball in the back line, they're going to have to set a good platform with it with their forwards, and it's going to be a question mark for me whether or not those French forwards can do it against this enthusiastic Wales pack. This is too close to call for me here on Monday, so I'm going to put it down as a potential draw between these two teams, or at least 1 or 2 points in it either way. That's how close I see it at this stage. But let's wait for the teams to be announced later on in the week, and I might jump one side of the fence or the other after I see who's going to play in this game, or who's been the starting 15 for each game. Let me know in the comments what way you think this one's going to go between Wales and France at the Principality Stadium on Sunday. So this round's got a little bit of everything for me. I think the first two games have got that potential for a upset. Are we going to see Italy beat Scotland at home, and could England pull off a major upset against Ireland at Twickenham? So those are the two upset kind of games, and then the intriguing game for me is the third game between Wales and France. I think that one could go either way, and as we get the teams announced later on in the week, I'll give you my verdict one way or the other on how I see that game going. So that's how I see the three games this coming weekend. Now don't forget to drop your thoughts in the comments on each of the three games as we sit here early in the week. And don't forget, I'll be back later on in the week once the teams have been announced to give you my deep preview for each of these games, and who knows, my mind will probably change by then. So there we go, that's it for this particular video. I hope you all had a great weekend. Don't forget, if you like my content, hit the subscribe button. Stay around for plenty more rugby here on Inside Rugby with Mark, and I'm going to be back again really soon with some more video content. Until then, it's time to say adios from Mexico. Stay well, stay safe everybody, and I'll see you again really soon. Bye for now.